Students, today I will explain you a beautiful poem, The Laburnum Top by Ted Hughes. Before starting the explanation, you must know about the poet. Ted Hughes was born in West Yorkshire and educated at Maxborough Grammar School and Pembroke College, Cambridge. As a boy, he spent a lot of time on shooting and fishing and developed an obsession with birds and animals, which is evident in The Laburnum Top, as well as in many other works by him. His poem captures the beauty and violence of poems. Ted also published plays for children. Introduction. The poem The Laburnum Top is a beautiful poem in which the poet has used the laburnum tree. Students, laburnum tree you can say is a flowering shrubs or trees having bright yellow flowers. In Hindi, we say it as amaltas tree. Important thing about these trees is that all parts of the plant are poisonous. And goldfinches. Goldfinch are small yellow birds. They are used as a symbol of life and its fluctuations. In this poem, the poet describes how the visit of a goldfinch changes the laburnum tree. The goldfinch transforms the tree and makes it come alive as the chicks of the goldfinch, the babies, start to rustle and chirp on seeing her. Once the goldfinch leaves the tree, it becomes quiet and still again. The laburnum tree symbolizes the pattern of our life in general, very important, which is usually dull and inanimate. Inanimate you can say lifeless. The goldfinch breaks the usual pattern and makes it lively. Without the goldfinch, the laburnum tree is just like another tree. In other words, it is the attitude of a person towards life that makes life meaningful and worth living. Here, the vocabulary list is prepared for you that will help you out to understand the poem easily. Students, now lend me your ears. Explanation of the poem. I am going to start stanza wise. The laburnum top is silent, quiet and still. In the afternoon, yellow September sunlight. A few leaves yellowing, all its seeds fallen. Laburnum top, here the poet is talking about the top part of the laburnum tree. The poet describes a beautiful sunny autumn. Which season is going on? Autumn season. The laburnum tree is silent and still. It is laden. Laden means full with yellow leaves and yellow flowers in September. It was the autumn season, and which month was going on? September. Its leaves have turned yellow because of the autumn season, and all its seeds have fallen. Here you will see that in second line, September sunlight. Which figure of speech is used? Alliteration. Till the goldfinch comes with a twitching chirrup, a suddenness, a startlement at a branch end. Then sleek as a lizard, and alert and abrupt, she enters the thickness, and a machine starts up, of chitterings and a tremor of wings and trillings. The whole tree trembles and thrills. It is the engine of a family. She stokes it full, then flirts out to a branch end, showing her barred face identity mask. So, students, the explanation goes like this. Just then a goldfinch alights on the, alights here meaning arrives, on the laburnum tree, making short, high-pitched sounds. Twitching chirrup. Twitching chirrup, you can also say that a small movement of the body, and chirrup the sound the birds make. Here these two words are the example of onomatopoeia words. The goldfinch has her nest in the tree and her chicks off resting in the nest. On the mother's return, a sudden movement stirs the tree. Her little ones are excited on her arrival and start chirping. The cautious means worried mother enters the tree with great care so that no predator means enemy can come to know that her babies are housed in the nest. Students, in the third line, then sleek as a lizard. Very good example of simile is used as the sleekness of the bird is compared to a lizard. And here an alert and abrupt, the first consonant letter is repeated. So, this is the example of alliteration. Tree trembles and thrills. Meaning of this phrase is shaked violently. Engine of her family, here this is the example of metaphor. Metaphor, students, you can say like where the engine represents the mother goldfinch and machine which represents the nest with its brood of bird chicks. So, this is the example of metaphor. And the last line of this stanza, her barred face identity mask, is the example of transferred epithet. What is a transferred epithet? A transferred epithet is a description which refers to a character or event but is used to describe a different situation or character. Her barred face identity mask is an example of this. The flowers of the laburnum tree fall like bars, and when the bird sits behind the flowers, the shadow of the flowers on her face looks like she is wearing a mask that has bars on it. So, this is the example of transferred epithet. The poet has compared the alert, abrupt meaning suddenly, and sleek means smooth movement of the goldfinch with that of a lizard. The goldfinch has been called the engine of a family, just as the engine starts up the machine. Her arrival in the nest has suddenly started up the silent machine. What is the silent machine here? The nest. I.e., the young ones have started chittering there and making noise. Chittering, you can say, sound made by baby birds. By feeding her young ones, she has added fuel to the machine, and as a result, the chicks now have the energy to be active and make noise. After feeding her babies, the chicks, the goldfinch flies up and rests on the end of a branch of the tree. Her identity concealed means hidden behind the yellow flowers and yellowing leaves. Students, the laburnum ensures security from the nest for the nestlings because According to popular belief, the bark and the seeds of the laburnum tree are poisonous. That I have told to you in the starting, that each and every part of the tree, laburnum tree, is poisonous. So what happens? The predators or the enemies normally do not come near the tree. Apart from this, its yellow flowers and yellowing leaves in the autumn season, complemented by the yellow colored feathers of the goldfinch, which help in camouflaging, means changing the color, the nestlings from the predators, and the life of the babies is saved from the enemies. Then with eerie delicate whistle chirrup, whisperings, she launches away towards the infinite, and the laburnum subsides to empty. Eerie, you can say, strange in a frightening or mysterious way. Launches here meaning flies. Infinite meaning the sky here. Subsides to empty meaning becomes silent just as earlier. After some time, the goldfinch makes a strange, short, high-pitched sound. Then she flies away towards the infinite sky. The laburnum tree becomes silent again after the departure of the goldfinch, and everything seems to be the same as it was before the arrival of the goldfinch. And the laburnum subsides to empty. This is the last line of the poem. It describes that with the departure of the goldfinch from the laburnum tree, it falls silent. The tree was noisy and lively when the goldfinch came to feed its chicks, but it refers to its earlier self after its departure from the tree. In this poem, the poet has used poetic devices beautifully, and some of the examples are, the first one is symbols. Symbols like laburnum top, it is the symbol of peace and serenity, which is an integral part of nature. Yellow September, leaves yellowing, symbolic of autumn and passing age, which brings in its wake decay and loneliness. And finally, goldfinch, the symbol of vivacity and liveliness. The second poetic device used in the poem is simile. In this figure of speech, what happens? One thing is compared to another by using the word as or like. And the beautiful example of in this poem is, an example of this simile in this poem is sleek as a lizard. You can just underline in the poem also. The next figure of speech is metaphor. In this figure of speech, a word or phrase is used to represent something else. Examples of metaphor in this poem are engine of a family. As earlier also I have explained to you that here the poet has used the figure of speech is metaphor, where engine represents the mother goldfinch and machine which represents the nest with its brood of bird chicks. So, this is the example of metaphor. Next, and the most important one, alliteration. In this figure of speech, a number of words having the same first consonant sound other than A, E, I, O, U occur close together in a series. Examples of alliteration in this poem are September sunlight, a suddenness, a startlement, and alert and abrupt, and tree trembles and thrills. These are the examples of alliteration. Please mark in the poem for better understanding. Another poetic device is onomatopoeia. In this figure of speech, a word is formed from a sound similar to it. Examples of onomatopoeia in this poem are twitching chirrup, chitterings, trillings, and whistle chirrup, because these all are producing sounds. Last but the most important one is transferred epithet. A transferred epithet is a description which refers to a character or event, but is used to describe a different situation or character. Like, if you have remembered, we have also done this poetic device in the first poem, that was a photograph. In that, terribly transient feat. What was their transferred epithet? Because the permanent thing is touching the impermanent feet. Here in this poem, the poet has described a different situation. For example, the bird's barred face identity mask, meaning the flowers of the laburnum tree fall like bars, and when the bird sits behind the flowers, the shadow of the flowers on her face looks like she is wearing a mask that has bars on it. So, this is the example of transferred epithet. So, students, you can see the examples I have highlighted in this slide. At last, I want to just tell you that at the start of the poem, the top of the laburnum tree in the poem is silent and still. There is hardly any activity on it, as the sunlight falls on it on a September afternoon. However, with the arrival of the goldfinch, it suddenly becomes a place of feverish activity. The silence of the place is broken by the twittering and chirping of the chicks and the goldfinch. I think that the change brought about by the arrival of the goldfinch on the laburnum top is good, as it breaks the monotony, the boredom. The tree becomes alive and lively with the movement of the goldfinch and the twitterings and chirpings of the chicks. The value we are learning is that change can be good or bad in life, depending on a situation. However, the fact is that change is the only constant in life. So, even if a change is bad, we have to accept it and move on in life. So, this is the lesson you are learning from this poem, that whatever the change in life is coming, whether it is good or bad, we have to accept it. We have to learn to accept it and move on in life. Thank you, students. I hope you have understood the poem. For any queries, you can just contact me personally.